Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Doctor and Call. It is Tuesday, the 21st day of November 2023. 2 weeks ago, we started our discussion on diabetes, November Diabetes Awareness Month. And we're looking at different aspects of this chronic condition. This evening, we have with us, of course, Dr. Nixon, as always, and Mr. Akeem Williams. He's from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. And, of course, we will be chatting with him about nutrition and how you can take care of yourselves, what you eat, what you drink, that is if you're diabetic, and also, if you're not, how to not become diabetic. So we will be having these discussions, and folks, we are looking forward to hearing from you. We need you to pay very close attention to these discussions because diabetes is something that can be fatal. That is if you don't take care of yourselves. And of course, you would rather not have to go through all the little ups and downs, being a diabetic, because apart from not being well, it costs a lot. Yeah, it costs a lot. Medication, having to see your physician, and when it gets really bad and starts affecting some of your vital organs, I'm telling you, it can be very, very, very costly. All right. So you want to pay attention, and tonight we'll be discussing all of these. So first, let's welcome Doc. Doc, good evening, and welcome again.
I can tell you, I feel like I never leave. But good evening, Grenada. It's great to be here. And I want to remind you something. We always talk about what we invest in care. We forget what we lose. Okay? We forget what we lose in care. That's also very important. Time lost visiting a doctor when you should not have been. Money that it costs you because you don't earn. The strain on the health system, the strain on the social security system, the strain on your family, the quality of life of your family if you're the caregiver, blah blah blah. So you can't walk, the loss of mobility, the change in your lifestyle, all of those things which are preventable if we only do what we should be doing. There's obviously need for broader intervention at a policy level, at a food security level, etc. And of course, definitely education. But you have to remind people that whichever way we go, once we have diabetes, once we've developed diabetes, if we don't put a lasso on the galloping horse, we're heading for a lot of problems. So tonight we're going to look at it as comprehensively as possible when it comes to caring for, especially in relation to what we consume, and preventing worse disease and avoiding all the loss that we can experience.
Yes, indeed. And of course, let's welcome Akeem. I think it's probably his first time on Doctor and Call. So Akeem, good evening.
Yes, it is.
And welcome to Doctor and Call. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, actually. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Just tell us briefly.
It's nice to have a young male representing the health sector. And I know Akeem is an avid worker. I know he's very interested in sharing his talent, his information, and ensuring people, motivating people to live better quality health. So Akeem, I'm really very happy that you're here to represent that part of the population that we don't really see. But thank you for being here.
Right.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Just before we start the discussion, just take a minute and tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, what do you do, and,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my name is Akeem Williams. I'm the nutritionist for St. George with the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. So pretty much what I do, we as a community nutritionist, we're out in the schools, we're out in the daycares, we're in the chronic disease clinic providing medical nutrition therapy for persons living with diabetes, either to get them to have it control or prevention. And so we really serve a cross-section of the population. Now it has been my story where diabetes is concerned, coming from a long family with family members who've had and who've seen that negative side as it relates to complications. Where there's a grandmother who lost her 2 eyes and 2 limbs, to an aunt who lost 2 limbs and 2 eyes, and having family members who've lost limbs and seeing how negatively it has affected their quality of life. To my own mother, who from the tender age of 13, I had to shift into gear to provide care for her with regards to managing her blood sugar levels, not really understanding what it was, but getting into it and seeing the impact that nutrition played and really making a difference for her has really propelled me into this field, because I think there's a significant contribution that can be made where diet, lifestyle, and managing diabetes is concerned.
Right, thank you, Akim. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, just from that little introduction. Doc, last week we spoke quite a bit, and the week before as well, focusing, of course, on diabetes. Again, it is never too much to remind people about what this condition is all about and how you can be, how you can become diabetic. So Doc, take 2 minutes and just summarize that again for us, and then we would get Akim straight into the conversation.
You want to summarize what diabetes is?
Yes, briefly, yeah. It's never too much. Never too much.
There's never too much. I'll tell you what. We expect that by 2030, the population, 1/5 of the world, 1 in every 5 person that we know, maybe us, may have diabetes at the rate we're going. Okay? We know that diabetes is a condition where your body ceases to use up, right? Metabolize the foods that give us energy. Right? We need to have a certain amount of what we call glucose in our body, and glucose is the unit of energy. However, when we start having challenges, we notice that our body is no longer able to use up that energy, simply because there's a chemical, a hormone in our body called insulin, that has a big responsibility for helping to get that glucose from your bloodstream into your organs where they're needed. So you eat, get digested in your stomach, it passes passively, no help. But when it comes to being able to get to where it's needed, for your eyelid to wink, for us to have the energy to talk, for your heart to pump, whatever you need energy for, you need glucose. When we get glucose from those conditions, those food components that we call sugars and starches. So all the sodas, all the juice, all the rum, all the alcohol that we consume, whatever sugar sweetened beverages we are consuming, the rice, the flour, the sugar, the pasta, the yam dumpling, the breadfruit, right? Some vegetables, although in a different component, but those things that are sugars and starches provide energy. What is our challenge? We cannot eat too much of them things. We have actually put so much stress on our pancreas, especially if we have families who already, if we had a predisposition, we kind of likely to at risk for, where we have families who drink, who already have shown that they have family blood relatives who have already shown that they are capable of developing diabetes because they already have it. We know we kind of in the lineup as well. We also know that if we consume in large volumes, it kind of put a little pressure on that organ, the pancreas that produces insulin, right? We're not overweight. It's a big overweight obesity, which we show in the night blood there. The bottom line is that we know that if we're overweight, we're also at risk. But we know that our volumes that we've been consuming contribute significantly to not only the potential for developing diabetes, but also after we've had diabetes, or sugar, as we call it, right? That we still continue to love. Let me tell you something. We like food, and that's okay to like food, but we like food too much. We like too much of the wrong things. You know, I'm telling telling people as a child, when you eat macaroni once in a while, when you cook soup, my throw 6 grains of macaroni to make it look exotic, right? Not that people eat pasta every day. And you know, how I feel about pasta can be said on TV, all right? But no. What is this thing we call pasta that we all have this crazy addiction and relationship with? Some of us, sadly, have chosen to eat wrong foods because we kind of live in vicariously through our children. Well, I eat enough fig in the country, we're not eating fig in town. Sorry. Okay? I grew up eating fig and I hated the fact that we eat fig. Please eat a fig. I beg all you. Okay? And they don't want to eat, or we've stepped away from what we call our indigenous foods, the foods that we used to plant and grow and stuff, and have gone to get highly processed foods. Okay, again, the flour and the fast food and the things that are easy, convenience food generally. So instead of giving our children probably a few slices of a fruit or a fruit for the break, we give them 2 packs of cookies with highly processed flour, something that's stick in the middle that I don't know what it's made of. They say it's cream that don't have no milk in it, or might have some milk solids, but a whole lot of sugar, all of which are bad for our children. And that's what we give them. What do these foods do? You eat them, and they have what we call a high glycemic index. But that's for Akim to talk about. But these foods shoot up your blood sugar, shoot it up. If your insulin is working, if you have good quality insulin, or you have enough, sufficient, it will fix that. It will take care of it. It will store what the body doesn't need for its regular burning of energy, store it as fats and as glycogen, especially in the liver and elsewhere, like on your bottom and your belly. But other than that, if you don't have that insulin to take care, all that sugar stays in your bloodstream. And that sugar in your bloodstream is like I want to use a nice word and say toxin, but really and truly is a poison. It really damages a lot of your body, your blood vessels in particular, your nerves and all the rest. And so we have all the complications, not to mention that surplus sugar, extra sugar that does not go into where it needs to be used and immediately, right? Lingers, sticks onto the red blood cells. Our red blood cells have the basic responsibility for transporting oxygen and even the same food, which comes as glucose, to bodies. But when the red blood cells lose the ability to be flexible, their pliability, right, because of that surplus of sugar on level, it no longer can reach our feet. And then we start having circulatory and nerve problem in our legs, and then we end up losing our foot and our toe or ankle, go up to the ankle and go up to the knee, and if it needs to be, go up higher, because we can't control. And once your sugar is high, it takes a longer time for it to heal anyway. Or those blood vessels that get clogged in the back of your eyes, and your vision starts to become less and less efficient. Or those little blood vessels in your brain, that the same red cells that now can't move and cannot clog up each other, stick up to each other, blocks the circulation, and you get little minor strokes, right? After a while, you do get big strokes, right? But you have death of your brain tissue because of lack of oxygen. Or in your heart, right? The whole circulation, because the heart might pump, but the heart needs energy to pump. When those little vessels in the heart as a muscle get clogged, the same thing happens. Your kidneys, very important organs, which need to, I call them the water treatment plant of your body. I saw an ad that Nawasa has, which I think is fabulous. The guy shows us how they get to all the sediments in one pond, and then you have this crystal clear water that you can drink. In the same way, when the blood goes through your kidneys and the blood constantly passes through your kidneys have these little systems that are used to filter all the garbage out of it, sends out the garbage. When you have sugar and the sugar break up all of that and creates malfunctioning, badly functioning kidneys, and our kidneys get sick. All right, and of course, we'll talk about eye, brain, heart, kidneys, and circulation, peripheral circulation in your legs, even in your fingers, right? So those are the big things that diabetes brings. And I think it's good to have Akim here, because diabetes is a disease of food and lifestyle. Are we getting up and walking and exercise? No, that's your ambit.
Right.
Actually,
Yeah.
that is really what it is. And as a nutrition practices and a movement practices, every week I cross about Convent children walking up, taking the bus to go up the hill from the bottom. Akeem, you walk up the hill? Because I know you walk up there too.
Every morning.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. So let's bring in Akeem. Akeem, you heard Doc. Generally, one thing she said: we are people. We like food. We like our oil down. We like we love food. All right.
We like a lot of food.
But one of the dangers is the amount we consume and what we consume can definitely create problems for us. So let's start the conversation.
Certainly.
Yeah, what should we eat and how much should we eat?
That's an interesting conversation. To go into it, I always like to tend to understand what the problem is, and from what I've seen in the clinics, I've seen a common trend. And if no matter what age group you look at, even those tiny babies that I think sometimes we do a disservice to them, we see it happening there. What I've discovered in the clinic is that we have inherited what we call a bellyful culture. It worked for our parents or our foreparents, but it doesn't work for us. In addition to that, what we have also done, in addition to this high starch diet that doctor mentioned, we have now added highly processed foods to that. So you find, let's say, a typical bowl of pela that one might sit and have at a Saturday afternoon. We might have a small spoon of coleslaw in there, but what's going behind that? We might have a big bottle of soda or a big cup of juice behind that or drink behind that, and not realizing that at the end of the day, what I see as starch and what I see as sugar come down to the same constituent, glucose, right? And so what you see happen is an overload of glucose in the system. So what we say to persons is, if we understand, right, that we're no longer eating to full our belly just so that we're not hungry, but we're eating to be satisfied, we're eating to provide nourishment so that every single body system can work, whether it's the brain, the eyes, and they'll have the nutrients available, then we won't end up in this position. Because it means that what we see happening is that we're providing too much of one particular nutrient that's causing the other systems to also be at a deficit, because starches do not contain all the nutrients. So what are we talking about? We launched our food-based dietary guidelines in 2020, and I think it's a good tool, and everywhere I go, I always put a plug. If you haven't heard of it, you can Google it. It's on our Facebook page. It's in our health centers and some of our schools. It's a nice poster with a nutmeg that has different separations as to what's recommended. One of the things that we push a lot in that guideline is, I think it's mentioned number 2 or 3, that says consumption of fruits and vegetables every single day. That's a challenge I see at the clinic, right? So when I come and I see my clients, I say, well, it might be once a week on a Sunday. It might be 2 lettuce and some tomatoes, right? But if we must understand what we must eat, I think that's where we must start. Understanding what's causing, so that we know what we're not doing. I'm no longer trying to fill my stomach. I said to my clients all the time, it worked for grandparents. They grew up in an environment where there weren't as much motor vehicles, and so they had to walk a lot. And I would remember my mom and aunts and them saying to me that they would come from the garden early in the morning and then on Fridays have to walk to go to Grenville from town or from New Hampshire to Grenville. Just depends. And I'm saying we drive everywhere. We're not walking as much. Our lifestyle has changed. So given that our lifestyle has changed, it means that we can no longer decide that we can eat the same way. So we have to make a shift. Now the starches that provided them the energy to work on the plantation is no longer needed, because many of us are sitting at desks, right? Many of us if we're driving, we're sitting at desks, we're working in grocery stores, or we're standing. It's not burning as much energy and calories as it did for our foreparents.
Right. But Akeem, let's just look at what is before us. In recent weeks, maybe 2-3 months, we've had significant problem, and with the whole issue of climate change and the high temperatures that we've been experiencing. For example, there has been a scarcity of veggies like lettuce and tomatoes and all of these things that are really good for us. There's been a scarcity of it. Considering that, you have to eat, but let's look at what is available. You know, what should we do? How do we get around, not having the right stuff and having to work with what is available? What should we do? How do we deal with that?
So, working what's available, the first recommendation would be, I always encourage persons, so let's use what we have. Our green bananas or provisions or so would be a better choice, right? Those are options. Any day a better choice because one, they have more fiber. They also have quite a bit of resistant starches that doesn't necessarily digest and it doesn't necessarily convert it into glucose depending on how it's prepared. Right now, that can help. However, if you like me and you sit at the clinic, right, and we have the dietary recalls, the amount of our persons who are actually consuming or who have access to these foods is very small, right? So herein lies another challenge because they will say to you, well, Mr. Williams, the dashing and expensive when I go and I go to the market to pick up some for those who are not planting. Right? They would say $10, $20, and you're getting 2 small pieces of yam. So everybody may not be fortunate to have a little fig tree, banana tree on the outside that I might have. So we always encourage persons, if you don't have it, maybe the time to start planting it. To plant a banana tree, you just need to make sure you have adequate mulch, and it doesn't require a whole lot of you. But we have to start taking small steps so that we can do things that are easy. So we have to go back to the eating what you grow and growing what we eat, because we know that we need it, even at our own homes. So yes, we can focus on our growing provisions and that we have locally, but it's only part of the solution. It's only part of the solution. I think there must be a wider conversation because clients have said to me, Mr. Williams, there's no lettuce in the supermarket. What do we do? And so we either have to say to them, okay, right, maybe some okra seeds can help. If we get some of the vine spinach that you can plant around the house, it requires no attention. The callaloo we have in the drain that doesn't really require us to go and mulch and manually just to plant it and leave it and it's going to come. Those are great options as well that we can use, whether it's some pumpkin that we can have, and carrot is pretty much readily available. Again, I put in a plug on this and I want to add this. Onions are some things that are a particular vegetable that I think we take for granted. It is not a seasonal, ladies and gentlemen. It's what we call a aromatic vegetable. So it's cheap and readily available at our grocery stores, and it's something that we can add to our dish, not in the small amounts that we are accustomed adding it to our chicken and to season our fish, but we can add it to our pumpkins, to our vegetables, and it can help meet the gap that we see. All right, and it's actually quite beneficial for the body, actually, in terms of reducing oxidative damages and that kind of a thing, So I think those are some simple and easy use options that can be used in conjunction, and these are all local things that we have available here, right? We're not saying that people might say, okay, it's going to cost some time. I'm saying to you that these things, if you plant a spinach, it's going to take over your house. Okras require little or no attention. So simple things that we can do that can help us meet the gap. Nevertheless, I always believe that the clients I represent, I owe them this favor, and I have to represent them well. And I always put a plug that where agriculture is concerned, we have to do a lot more, because I say to my client, I often say, if all of my clients who are willing and who have the self-efficacy and say, Mr. Williams, I can do this from tomorrow, and I'm going to change the diet. If all of them were to do this, we wouldn't have enough food to fix the problem. And that's a fact. That's a serious fact. Because if we look at the amount of portion that's required in a day, we wouldn't have enough. Right. So, though we have that locally and it can help, I think there's a bigger conversation that must be started, and it's costing us as a country, right? So we have to decide and get down to the groundwork and say, you know what, if it's costing us in terms of medicine and it's costing us in terms of food input bill, let's actually put a serious conversation, let's start the conversation and put some serious thought into addressing it. Because I had a client today, for instance, and this client is saying to me, well, Mr. Williams, we have people who literally can't afford things. So even if we were to say that they could have, we have persons who generally not there on the social scale. How do we meet them at that point of need? See, whether it be social programs, and I'm not saying that everybody has to have things for free, and some people who are able to pay could pay, but we also have persons, if they don't take care of their health, it comes back on the system to fund their medication and their treatments. So I think it's a balancing act that's quite delicate. But the conversation can start.
Right. So, I understand. You mentioned something earlier about the starches, and so some of them, because of that, they don't necessarily convert to sugar. Talk a little bit about that. I found that rather interesting.
All right. So green bananas happen to be one of those foods. It occurs in potatoes as well as rice. When we cook them and we cool them, you find that some of the starches are converted into what we call resistant starches. So it's a type of starch that's non-digestible by the enzymic action of the digestive system. What does that mean? It means that when it gets to that part, it's not going to be broken down into glucose and absorbed into the bloodstream. Instead, it's going to go to the colon, where the microorganisms in there are going to break it down, but it's not going to be broken down into the sugars that are going to reach your blood sugar levels. So overall, in comparison to things per se like white flour, it makes a significant difference. All right, especially for persons who are striving for better glycemic control.
But Mr. Williams, we are people we love with dumpling.
And if we love with dumpling, again, milk, this is where meal combination comes in. So I always say, listen, I don't tend to believe that we have good or bad food. The challenge I tell my clients is we have very good or bad diets. Now, when I take a particular food and I abuse it as a lifestyle, herein lies a significant problem, right? Some people will say, oh, starches are a problem. I'll say to you, no, they're not. Some people will say, oh, don't eat no fruits at all because fruits have sugar. And I'm saying, no, that's not correct. At the end of the day, if I sit down and I eat a whole wash pan of fruit, like some of my clients, Mr. William, when mango season come, is 4 and 1 mango is not enough. This isn't helping us. It isn't helping us. All right? So the balancing act is quite important. So how we combine them is important. So we can have our starches, yes, but we also know that when starches are combined with protein, fats, and carbs together, when they combine, they have a different, what we call a glycemic load. So it means that it's not going to spike your blood sugar as high, and it's not going to keep it there. It's going to rise gradually, right? And it's going to stay at a certain level so that you have a steady supply of glucose readily available. And like the doctor mentioned, to be able to lift your hands, to clap, to blink, just to have energy to work in the day, to be able to focus. That's what we're actually looking for. And I think because somebody told us that cereals and a lot of those different conflicts or breakfast options, I don't know where we got them from, that sometimes when you hear a lot of your posts, this is all they have at the morning time, just cereal and milk. And if it's low-fat milk, again, so we're not having that nice balancing act. So you find that the glycemic load is higher and you're having a spike in the morning time. And when blood sugar spike, if you're type 2, it means that spike sometimes stays up for quite some time. And you come to the clinic and you're wondering why it's not going down, because our combination is the problem. If we combine our foods, then we take away the individual glycemic index like we're talking about. So we recommend lower glycemic index foods, yes. But when we combine them, we get the beauty of blood sugar control.
Right. I'm going to come back to you.
Can you explain the difference or the meaning or the similarity between glycemic index and glycemic load for the benefit of people like me who don't know nothing more than thing?
All right. So glycemic index, when we talk about glycemic index, we look at a certain measure of food, and what we're considering its ability to spike your blood sugar in comparison to a unit of sugar or glucose. So after somebody would have, in the testing, and so after someone would have consumed, like let's say about a teaspoon or a tablespoon of glucose, everything as it is consumed is compared to that, depending on how high the sugar rises, right? Glycemic load, on the other hand, considers that to an extent, but it considers the composition of the food. For example, you can have a food that might have a higher glycemic index, meaning that it's going to spike the sugar fast, but it has a lower glycemic load, so the spike is not going to be as high. Right? As well as if you were to consume a banana, right? Versus adding that banana to some peanut butter, you will have a lower glycemic load because it's combined with the protein and the fat. And again, we don't eat individual foods. Well, sometimes we do. Sometimes we will sit down and eat bread alone in the morning, and we will eat crackers alone. But we shouldn't really eat individual foods like that. By nature of what we're trying, we know food has this complementary relationship. When we combine vitamin C and iron, we can get that increased absorption. That kind of a thing that we're seeing is if we combine calcium and vitamin K2, we see that instead of it going to the arteries and clogging and making the arteries hard, it goes to the bones where we need it to go. That kind of complementary relationship is what we're talking about when it comes to the balancing act of nutrition.
Okay, so tell me what I want practical knowledge, and Godfrey too, and the thousands of people listening to us. Tell me some foods that I've had that will make my sugar spike quickly that we consume. What are the high glycemic index foods in our marketplace, in our food basket, in our kitchen? Can't hear you. Can you hear him, Godfrey?
No, I lost him there for a moment. I'm not sure what happened. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's just take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back. Let's see if we can have that sorted out and come right back.
Yeah. I'm Godfrey.
Have you heard about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue, available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Gaming is where dreams come true and jackpots are won. Dive into a world of delightful experiences and daring action. From the moment you step through the doors, have the time of your life, feel the energy, soak in the excitement, and let the good times roll. Blast is more than just a place to play. It's where friends socialize, cocktails flow, and a safe space for those who dream big and dare to have fun while doing it. Blast Gaming. Know your limits, play within it. You must be 18 and over.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now! We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed true to maintaining the most comprehensive rates while stocking the widest range of medicines and health devices, including personal protective equipment. There are so many benefits shopping with us. You get great savings through discounts for senior citizens and reward cards for loyal customers. Ask about owning yours today. Visit us at Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George, Jubilee Street opposite the Grenville Bus Terminal, and at Hillsborough, Carriacou. Our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street also stocks the widest range of pharmaceuticals. We are with you on the hills and in the valleys. We are Hills and Valley Pharmacy.
Hello everyone, here is an invitation to join me this and every Sunday until December 17th on GBN Television and K105 FM from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for Yuletide Sundays. Great music, gifts, and all the wonderful things of Christmas. Yuletide Sundays comes to you compliments Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices, Grenville Credit Union, Gittins Healthcare, and Clear Vision Eye Center.
There are now 5, 10, 15-year survivors, even with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So if someone tells you just get your affairs in order and don't do anything, that's a mistake.
We need families who've been devastated by this disease to get on board so we can get more research and get to the cure.
Join us on Caribbean Medical TV right here on this station.
On this episode of Caribbean Passport TV, we travel to St. Kitts and Nevis, visit a cocoa estate in Trinidad and Tobago, and listen to some steel pan music. And then we'll wind down with some paintings right here on this station.
Being aware of your body, empowering yourselves as women, and ensuring that.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Doctor in Call, and our guest this evening, Mr. Akeem Williams from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. We experienced a little technicality just now. We lost his audio. Hopefully, we have that sorted out very soon. Doc, quite interesting, listening to Akeem and some of the information that he's shared. From where you sit, and of course he's mentioned being in the clinic and talking to his patients and so on and so forth. As a medical practitioner, do you get similar kind of responses from some of your patients?
That story, because I have some patients who are really, really very good, because we have a collaborator. Okay, our patients can call me for information. I check on them. You have to do your blood sugars. You have to do follow-up. We talk about nutrition. I send all my patients, all people who have diabetes, should go for a nutrition counseling session, or 2 or 3, whatever is needed to help them to support. All patients who have diabetes should have their eyes checked in the beginning. They should have a dental check. They should go and get their feet checked so that they can check their feet and they can be taught how to save their feet, right? And of course, they have to have the gamut of care, all the interventions that are necessary. This one patient of mine wanted to change her medication, and very correctly so, because she was on a group of medications that I don't really use. I don't like using, because as you get older, it puts you at risk for getting very low blood sugar. So think about an older lady who lives alone in her house. Or she would have found, but they go to work in a day, take some medication, and she might have fallen asleep, kind of hot, and she just feel a little low, and she sit down, and her blood sugar drops. And a sudden low blood sugar that is prolonged, right, can be more dangerous than having elevated blood sugar. Neither of them is good, but you don't want anybody to have prolonged, very low blood sugar. So we decided we're going to change our medications, and we're really going to monitor. And I told her I wanted to write on. I do my patients 2-hour sugars, because the logic is 2 hours after you've had a meal, your sugar should go back to normal. If your insulin system working well, okay, your body's working well, you have, it should go back to normal. And so she's been doing her 2 hours, and she came with a notebook 2 weeks after, and she said to me, "Damn white bread." I said, "What about white bread?" Because she doesn't normally eat white bread. So she went to her cousin cooked the sweetest white bread ever. So she had 2 slices the night before and 2 slices in the morning when she got up, and it's nice. And she liked her belly, okay? The patient don't like her belly, but she's very aware of how to eat. And I said, "What happened?" And she says, "Look at this." She had been having 2-hour sugars at 95 and 89 and under 110, under 100, and right in the gap where you want it to be. She was at 187. So, we might say, I just eat 2 slices of bread. I have another patient say, if she eats 1 slice of bread, her sugar is fine. She eat 2, and said, I would have to say, how much bread you eat? And she'd laugh, right? And especially the white bread. And as Akeem mentioned, the glycemic load, how much of it is there? And of course, also in the case of the bread, the glycemic index, how fast it makes your blood sugar rise, and how soon and how high, and the capacity that your body has to take it back down to normal. We have to spend time. Remember my favorite saying, every time we go to church, pastor use the same Bible, but we have to keep reminding people it is important. We have 4 like this, that we have 4 in the church, we have 4 at workplace, we have 4 wherever it is, so people can be reminded, they can talk about it and share information. Okay? Those are experiences the patients tell you they try, or sometimes no, they didn't try. And you have to be there working with them. When a patient reaches his goal, when he has reached that point, he guards it with jealousy. Once a person is able to control their sugar, because I said, write what you write next door, write what you eat, so we can talk about it. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of time as a practitioner. But when the patient reaches that level of utopia, God, I've achieved my goal, it's a totally different situation. And if they cheat, they know to jump back online, jump back before they come back in. Because you say, look, you can do this, you haven't done this before. Is it easy? No, it is not. There's no easy fix. But it has to do with collaboration, and it has to do with support, and it has to do with patients reaching out and we not getting tired. And that's something we're going to talk about next week when we speak to Dr. Matthias. Patients, we as caregivers, not giving up, not getting tired of the patient. You can't get tired of a patient. And the only reason why they come back to you is because they know that you're willing to work with them on the challenges that they have. Right. We can't give them guilt trips. We need to support them.
Right. Akeem, just before we lost you for a moment, I remember Doc did ask you to speak about some of the foods that can, spike your sugar and so on and so forth. So we can take it from there.
So let's some typical examples. Now, because I like to make things easier for persons to understand, one of the very first things I'll tell you, and Doc alluded to it many times, but sometimes I don't think we get it. Foods that are highly processed, and when I say highly processed, it means that for them to become shelf stable, a perfect example, we can take cornmeal. From a corn, that's the whole food, we can ground it, we can process it, we can make it into cornstarch, or we can take wheat, which is the actual wheat plant, whole wheat flour, then bleached and put it into white flour. Anything that we've highly processed, we've removed the protein, we've removed a lot of the fiber, automatically it's going to have a high glycemic index. It's the very first thing. Mm-hmm. So by there, what foods tend to have lower glycemic index generally, most times are going to be the foods that are closer to natural. However, there are some exceptions to the rule, and I'll go through some of them with you. All right. So let's go some of those things. So bread, we know typically whole wheat and white bread, sometimes depend on where it's made and who's making it, usually tends to have a glycemic index. We usually separate them into 3 categories. We have high, medium, and low. What we recommend is that person stay to the medium and lower side of it. All right, let's go. So, strange enough, things like cream of wheat, cornflakes, like we mentioned before, and you can hear the highly processed in there, high glycemic index, even some of those brand cereals. Yes, I know we might look at that one. Highly processed, high glycemic index. We want to think things like just even overripe banana. So because an overripe banana is possibly, it's really sweet, we can often tend to choose a banana that's not so ripe, a little greener, or getting there, but that might be a better choice. Now, if you pair that again, that also gives us that better load. So those are some typical ideas. So highly processed, like we talk about things like the white rice that we tend to do, that white rice. A lot of that fiber has been stripped away and it has been heavily polished. So it gives us that idea. So right away, it tells you that then most of the things that we have that we grow here generally are going to fall on the lower spectrum of the glycemic index. So green bananas, or ground provisions, or cassavas, that kind of a thing. Definitely is going to fall. Now, if we process those foods, highly process them, and I know we tend to get creative sometimes, this is also a cause of concern because we can also make them high glycemics by processing them. So it's a give and a take. Now, again, because we understand that the glycemic index tells us part of the story, I want to put a plug again that yes, high glycemic index can be combined with other foods, and that gives you a lower glycemic load, so it doesn't affect the blood sugar as much. So I don't want you to go away thinking, because first thing people tell, oh, Mr. Williams, well, what can I eat? That's when they come. If I eat this too high, then what do I do? And I'm saying to us, if we understand the art, and like Dr. Nixon mentioned, it's not a walk in the park, and we do it's not a quick fix. If you put in the work, you do the therapy sessions, you'll find that it becomes easier because it becomes habitual. If we can pair our food well to give us a lower glycemic load, then we can take a food that might be high glycemic index that we might like, because some of my clients' behaviors are also important. I would prefer my client, if you have a craving for a certain food, that you have it in a healthy way in combination, opposed to you not having it, and when the cravings get so high that you decide you have a pitfall, and then you go and you pig out and you have everything, and you come back because it shows you out of a balance. You then go to a cycle of saying, well, you know what, I can't manage this diabetes no more, I give up, and then your sugar goes continuously high. So it's a bit of balancing behavior, right, and knowing how to have them in a helpful way.
Right. Okay. Wonderful. Let's, Doc. We have some people who've been calling. Let's just take a quick call here to see who is with us. Doctor on call. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for taking my call, Godfrey. This is an excellent conversation. Excellent with a capital E. Thank you for it. I have a question, right, for the gentleman. He spoke a while ago, of course. Relative to taking an iron supplement, is it true that an iron supplement absorbs better with vitamin C, for example, with juice rather than water? I'll listen to your response.
No.
Thank you so much. All the best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, my response is that it would depend on the form of the iron, because I think I'm not sure if it's ferrous sulfate. I think there are some that you can take them, and regardless of whether the vitamin C is there or not, it doesn't necessarily increase the absorption. But definitely, usually, if you consume something that's high in iron with vitamin C, it's going to increase its absorption. Now, if you add a food from animal to that, meaning a heme iron, that also increases the absorption. So again, by me just saying this, we're seeing combination coming into play. Fruits, we're seeing food from animals, we're seeing vegetable coming into play, and we're getting that iron increase that we're talking about. But I do believe it's a ferrous sulfate. I could be wrong, but I know there is one particular that is prescribed quite often that doesn't necessarily need the vitamin C for absorption. But generally, vitamin C does increase absorption of iron. Doctor might be able to help me with that.
No. Generally, iron combined with vitamin C, regardless of the source, absorbs faster. You have a better absorption. So there's trihemic, which has 600 milligrams of vitamin C, which is a lot of vitamin C. Works magic. Might make your stomach irritated. I tell my patient, take it for 3-4 days. You would absorb much more than if you were taking it otherwise. The truth, however, is that iron is not absorbed in the presence of food. So you go to the pharmacy and they give you, if you write a prescription, I tell my patients, buy it over the counter and buy some vitamin C and have it. You wake up in the morning, you have it, wait for half hour, and you have it. Would you get a little irritation? Yes, you would. Right? But the truth is, you would have absorbed so much iron that if you were taking it with food, you can't compare. You can take it with food for a month and don't feel bad. But the amount of iron you would have absorbed cannot compare to the iron that you take with what you absorb if you're taking it. Basically, just vitamin C out of the presence of food. Food does not allow you to absorb iron as quickly. But what comes in food, yes. But when you're taking supplements, tablet, liquid, whatever it is, you need to take it on an empty stomach. With vitamin C.
Right, lovely. Let's Akeem, I want to come back to you, and I want to talk a bit now about portions and or quantities that we consume. What would you recommend? Let's say as a meal that is ideal for someone to be on the right path.
Okay, so I'm happy to ask a question. And so because of the challenge that we've seen at the community, so we can have these sessions and we realize there tends to be a disconnect from putting what you hear on a plate. So we at the Food and Nutrition Council, I'll try to pull this to say if I can show it on my screen here. we have in recognizing Diabetes Awareness Month to actually make some plates. And so the aim is everybody is going to be different. In no way says that this is the amount that you need to eat, because again, client-centered approach is recommended. However, if we can use this as a match, as I remember in primary school, they would say match the following. If we can match it, it's an excellent tool to help us get that balance in that we're talking about. So I'm gonna try to put it up on my tablet to see if I can show it on the screen. But as a general guide for portions, we say you want to take a plate, a 9-inch plate, and you want to make sure that it's 9 inches in diameter. So we have those fan plates that tend to have those nice floral and decorative edges. We're not talking about there. We're talking about that 9-inch center of that plate that's on the inside, right? What you ensure is that you want to see, at my major meals, can I try to get as much vegetables as possible? So you put your hands together. Generally, we recommend about half a plate of vegetables. That's generally a recommendation. If you're looking at starch or staples, or staple food, which can be greens or your ground provision, which is our starchy vegetables, I usually say, let's make a fist, right, as a simple guide, because you may not always have measuring stuff near you. And if you can just use your fist that you have on your body all the time, everywhere you go, and you compare it to your plate, it's a good guide for you. Right? As a simple eyeballing portion tool, you can open the inside of your palm, and you can just imagine you're drawing a circle, cutting your fingers off, right? So that inside part of your palm here is what we would consider your protein option. So that's going to be lean protein with all the skin removed. So half plate vegetables, low glycemic index starch or staple food that we're talking about here, that we talked about prior, and our lean protein is the general recommendation as the general guide for portion control. Now, to give you some practical tips, now we're going to have this available on our website and our Facebook page. So feel free, we'll make it in a form that's going to be downloadable so that you can have it on your phone, right? So even if I'm showing it tonight, we recently launched this, and I must say that it took quite a bit of work, but we saw the need and decided to do it, to have it done. So we had 2 breakfast options and 2 lunch options. So it says it's called My Healthy Plate. Okay, let's see if we can get it pulled up. So I had it pulled. All right. So it's actually taking a bit longer than I expected. Okay, here we go. There we go. So this is what it looks like. I hope you can see it. Okay, let's take this off. Not seeing anything. All right, let's take this off. So if you can see my screen, I need to come back this way. So if you can see my screen.
Your screen has gotten small. All right, there you go.
This is what it looks like. All right. So I'm going to scroll up. And so this would be our suggested breakfast option. Okay, I think I'm pressing all kind of thing over the place.
Can you name them? Can you say the things you have in one plate and the other? For those of us who don't have TV, because people are on radio.
Oh, so we are on radio. So we have half a plate that's lettuce and cucumber and tomatoes. We have quarter of the plate with 1 slice of bread with some guacamole or some avocado if you just want to do your avocado. But we figure guacamole would be a nice twist, but it's avocados, all right? That's why we have that locally. And instead of the highly processed meats as a luncheon meat that people tend to go for so often that we think is much more cost effective, we said let's do some lean chicken thighs that we can cook and we can strip that and have that as a breakfast option and replacement. Again, this is a food that's not as high in sodium, that's not going to also increase your risk for elevated blood pressure levels. All right, especially because we know a lot of persons who live with diabetes tend to generally have hypertension sometimes. All right, so that's for the person. So this is what it looks like for those on TV, and we have a cup of cocoa tea with that. So this is one of our breakfast options. I hope you can see it. All right. Now we have another one, and for this one we had egg, we had coconut bake, again which we were too familiar with. We have an orange. So here we go. So this is breakfast option number 2, sample number 2. with
Yeah,
our local
I
cocoa
notice
tea.
you don't have the whole bake there, okay?
Right, so we don't have the whole bake. All right. So everybody is different. Some persons, if you're a construction worker, you might tend to go for a whole bake because you will use it up in your work that you're doing. But generally, right, we're controlling our starch portions. Now the lunch is quite interesting. So for this lunch, we have cocoa, we have callaloo, a nice green salad, and some green fish. Take a look. Tell me how. Y'all tell me how it look. Do you think you would sit and eat this? Let's be truthful.
I don't like cuckoo.
You don't like cuckoo? All right. So we really wanted to come as local as possible for our traditionalists and try to meet them where they are. Now we have an interesting one, and I think we must give kudos to our product development and trading officer. So he came up with this really innovative way of doing provisions. So what he did, you know how we generally tend to cook provisions and cut up in some big slices and have them on the plate. So what he did was we cooked different provisions, whether it's yam, it's green banana, he had plantains, sweet potatoes, and he cut them up in some cubes. And you would saute onion, garlic, and seasoning pepper in there. And then you would now put your provision in there and then squeeze some lemon over it to add some flavor. And it's called a mixed provision mojito. All right. And that is, we have that with some red beans and some cooked vegetable, which is carrots, beans, okras, what else we have there, and pumpkin. All things that's relatively affordable. Okay. So here we go. And baked chicken. So you see, it means that we have a greater control of such a provision is concerned because of how it was prepared. All right, so those are some options that we would recommend, and like I'm saying, this is going to be made publicly available, so persons can go and download it and use it for your family members, and it's easy to use. Always saying to you, whatever you're cooking, right? It's difficult because everyone cooks differently and everyone has different preferences. But we say if you can follow and just match with the portions that you might use, whether it's provision, whether it's corn, whatever you might use. If you can match accordingly and appropriately, we can see some better glycemic control. The challenge, however, is because we try to follow our stomach, we try to do it only in starches. So provision might be a little expensive. So what's a little cheaper? Flour, pasta. That's where we usually tend to go, right? And ultimately, not the best for us, right? And on top of that, we'll add some stewed chicken. Stewed chicken is made from what? Typically, dry browning sugar. We'll still probably add a highly sweetened beverage to that. And again, at the end of the day, it comes down into glucose at the end of the day, and we see that overall spike. So again, balance is key. And for years, because I've been looking at videos and I've been hearing people like Miss Finney over the years talking about having a balance, that we're drilling it home because it works, right? And I can always give a personal story. I remember when my mom left and she went to the United States, and my sister is way more disciplined than I am. Now, granted that America has more resources and they have a greater availability of stuff, I was happy to hear that my mother's HbA1c went from 12 to 5. And so if we can see the impact of that when she was taking off medication because of the discipline that went into it. So I'm saying that, which is the same thing, half a plate vegetables, quarter starch, quarter bean. You make it flavorful. It's not going to be boring. It's not going to be tasteless. We're not saying just have it boiled and just eat that for the entire day, but combine it and add your favorite foods to it. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Indeed. Doc, I want to come to you now. If someone is diabetic, and in as it relates to all medical conditions, support is a very important thing. Very, very important thing. Doc, let me just switch from you and go back to Akim with that. I'm going to come back to you. Akim, you have a situation. We have a scenario here where there's a family of 5, all right, and one of the family, one family member, they're diabetic. All right, which means that some adjustments has to be made as it relates to what is consumed and all of that. Now, one might say it might be an inconvenience to the rest of the family when you have let's say a 4-to-1 situation. What would you recommend in a situation like that?
So I'll tell you what I do. So one of the things that I do when I have cases like that, I say to my clients, let's bring the family in. Let's bring them in. And when they do come in, it might either be 2 out of the family or 3 of the family. But I'm saying, I say to my clients, if we can get the support and the buy-in of the family members, we can see greater success because we know environment plays an important part. And what I say to them is, what we often call from a genetic predisposition, though that is a case, we can also see a transfer of behavioral patterns and eating patterns. So I say to my clients all the time, especially you hear it so often, that if you ask someone, tell me about your family history, who in the family has had diabetes, and more often than not they'll say, okay, my mom had it, my grandmother had it. So I say to them, the old people have a saying, when you neighbor house on fire, wet yours. And we tend to use that for a thing, but it can be applied in this case. If you're living in a family, in a house or in a community, in an environment where persons are coming down with diabetes and it's not controlled, chances are you are at an increased risk of coming down that road. So what I say to clients is, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to reverse what's actually causing that problem. So it's going to benefit you in the long run if we can come on board and have that complete lifestyle change, because what we don't want a generation to continually come up and have to take on the condition. If we can prevent this possible, I think we should. So when I bring them to the clinic, I help them understand what is the other person is going through emotionally, but also letting them know that it is supporting that person or that client, they're also supporting themselves. So it means that that's one less person, one less group of complications that we need to worry about. And it tends to sometimes be impactful, right? But it's one method that we use that has been quite successful, I would say, for that group approach. We have some challenges, yes, because some families tend to have those stubborn elements that you might say, I am studying that. But for the most part, it is one approach that we use to get persons to buy in.
Right, wonderful. Doc, you can come in here and maybe comment on what
I want to comment on this whole diabetic diet thing. I think it's a fallacy. That's my opinion. I think what we need to do is to teach families to eat healthy. And you asked Akim if he had one person with diabetes in a family and there are 5. Even if you have no persons with diabetes in the family, but 5 of you, I still think that guidance is necessary to show families how to eat. I think it's very important that we teach our children from early how to eat. Okay? It's difficult. Our children go to preschool, right? Daycare, and there's a point where they are not allowed to have junk or those highly processed foods and sodas and stuff. Food is cooked at the school. I think that's preschool, that's daycare, right?
So that's developmental centers. So that's
right.
Daycare, yes.
And then there's this big gap, and at every different level, children have more independence. So by the time you get to high school, mommy give you lunch money, you buy crap, because we have not been creating behaviors, lifestyles in family as to what healthy eating is. A child who has $10 for snacks is going to go to the sweetie shop. Can I disagree with him? No, I can't, unless I am able to tell him and instruct him and explain to him why that's not what his best option is. And so we're going to have to teach our families, we're going to have to teach all our families, whether or not there is diabetes, that there is a way to eat. There is a way, because I remember, if you have a family predisposition, genetic, which we think, and you feed that weakness, by the time your child is an adolescent, he would have consumed so much sugar. Plus, your child is sitting down all day playing, which is handheld. Only thing that get exercise is the 2 thumbs, right? We don't teach our children to run outside and play and all the rest. And what we are seeing, one is a younger population of children who are obese. Right? We never see obese. You see, if you have one little fatty child, he would remember that up to will probably traumatize him about it, because everybody teases him about being fatty. right? No, we're seeing children and being chubby is kind of part of it, right? Simply because our eating habits are so warped. Simply because of eating choices, the choices we often make, or sometimes we have to admit that they're choices, and want us to discuss the issue of choices after. Our choices are really bad. What we choose to buy, we buy fast foods. It's convenience, yes, but after a while it becomes habitual, and children just don't understand that they can actually enjoy food. Look at Akim's breakfast and lunch options. You can, there's chicken in there, right? And there's things that you like, and you will eat them. And if the family eats away, that's what is different. We get accustomed eating healthy, nice food that comes from the soil, that comes from our environment, that takes into consideration what our traditional foods are. So there's a lot of education that is going to be necessary, and a lot of support. A lot of support is going to be necessary for people in Grenada to accept a different kind of lifestyle, as far as the gastronomic and nutritional practices go.
Right, wonderful. So, folks, our telephone line is open. The number is 435-2041. If you have questions or you would like to contribute, you can give us a call. The number again, 435-2041, and you can definitely give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Let's go to the telephone. Doctor and call. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, good evening, caller.
There's a question I would like to ask both of you, Doc. Could someone be guided by nutrition, let's say from birth until he becomes, let's say in his old age, by his nutrition that will help him prevent having things like cancer and diabetes? Because I was listening to a program whereby there was an argument about insurances and so forth. And I was thinking, well, if someone has eaten the right food and carried themselves in the best way, there's no need for them to insure themselves. But it was argued that even if you eat the best, you do the best thing, there is a chance that you still would go down with cancer or some terminal disease. What do you take on that?
Akim, you go first.
All right, okay. So I'll take up the question.
Okay, caller, thank you.
Yes, you can be guided for your nutritional intake for your life for 3 different stages. Now, our approach to nutrition is one that's a life cycle approach. So it means that nutrition is important in pregnancy, before preconception, during pregnancy, when the child is born, and right through the entire life cycle through senior, because at every single life cycle, the demands of the body and the needs of the body, they're different. And so as a nutritionist who works in the community, we do provide those kind of education and support. So it means that I'm at the antenatal clinics when our mothers are pregnant. We're at the child clinic when they're 2-3 months, they're 4 months, they're 6 months, and we're providing support for them as to how to incorporate healthy meals. We're also at our daycares and schools, and so my daycares and schools who know that I'm giving support to them, we at the PTA meetings educating the parents, and we're saying this is why we encourage to eat healthy. When we say no juice in the daycares, this is why we're making a recommendation, because we're supporting health. We at the schools, so quite a few of my schools in the St. George Parish would invite me. Just last week I was at a PTA meeting talking to the parents as to the importance of it. So we at the special homes as well, and we even at the geriatric homes helping persons in addition to our clinic where we see mostly adult population. So yes, to answer his question, that support can be provided throughout the entirety of the life cycle, and it makes a difference.
Right. Yeah, caller, I hope you.
So we have evidence. I mean, everything we teach these days should be based on research and the evidence that we've seen. We know that people who adhere to healthy diets from early are at less risk. Yes, you may have a predisposition, the possibility of developing a disease, and that even if you develop it, it may not be as severe. remember also, like in the case of cancers, because you did bring that up, there may be other factors apart from nutrition that can cause some diseases to come on. So we're speaking tonight about diabetes, which is really a nutritional disease for the most part. But there are other factors that can actually cause people to develop disease, and that's what we want. That's what we want to. This is the difference you want to create. You want to explain that there are other things that can happen. Yes. But what we know about diabetes is what we're telling you. What we know about diabetes is what we're sharing with you, because we have to. If we don't, we're in trouble. We, in Grenada in particular, and in the world as a whole, have to apply the knowledge and make the effort not to develop diabetes, or diabetes in particular. And we know that we have to start with the lifestyle and the behaviors of our children, because we've seen, as time has gone by, as our table look different on a Sunday or a Saturday if we sit at the table at all, right? As our meals change, we see a greater amount of people, in other words, a higher incidence of diabetes. We see that we have a lot more costs, right? Medications, and there are expensive medications out there. They work, but they're very expensive, prohibitively so for our population. We know that the loss of legs and the loss of time and the loss of quality of life, and time with your family. Think about it. When I was a child, people who had diabetes started at 38 and 40 and 45 and those kind of age. And we're seeing children who have the granny style of diabetes. So we know that we cannot really stress in the pancreas to do tasks that do, okay? Because it's really overworked. So to apply the science, we have to make sure that our population stays well. One of the ways is making nutritionally appropriate for lifestyle.
Right. Let's yeah.
Before we haven't spoken about breastfeeding. Very, very, very component of proper nutrition. We can talk about our environment, however.
Right. So the number again, 435-2041. If you have any questions, you can definitely give us a call now. Our line is open, and we'll be more than happy to, entertain your question and try and provide you with the answers you're looking for. Let's go back to a telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Hi, good night.
Yes, how are you?
How are you all doing?
Good. Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to compliment you all on the show you all doing today. And I want to know, what age do you get diabetes?
What age do you get diabetes? Okay. Thank you, caller. Very interesting. Mm-hmm.
All right, bye.
Yeah. Doc, I think you should take this one.
All right, rain is falling behind me. The truth is that we have three types of diabetes that we know of. There's that we not going to, because it's not very prevalent. But one is juvenile diabetes. Juvenile or child diabetes, if you want to, where children develop diabetes. Remember us talking about insulin. Pancreas is an organ that provides insulin. So there are children who are born with developed pancreas, or the pancreas just not developed at all, right? And so they don't have any, so they have juvenile diabetes. And that is insulin-dependent diabetes. They must give an insulin to be able to take care of the carbohydrate content and have appropriate nutrition. They need insulin. And then you have type 2 diabetes, which used to be called adult onset diabetes. But like I said, these days we see our adolescents and younger people having it. This is where you have been okay for a while. At least you have been, or you may have been managing your glucose at some stage, and then you have this big change. You have change that comes on because of how we eat. We don't exercise. We'll also start to become obese and stuff. And so our pancreas and other things, but I want to specify pancreas doesn't produce sufficient insulin and you develop onset. There's another type of diabetes that is often temporary but may reappear, and that is gestational diabetes, the diabetes that happens in women when they're pregnant. Right? And you can treat it and control it, but if not, and that is why it's very important to get antenatal care, pre-pregnancy care early, and frequently and in a proper environment where we know to look out for these things, especially our younger pregnant women and our older pregnant women. Gestational diabetes occurs in this group of women during pregnancy because you go through a lot of hormonal changes anyway. You must know because, one, it can cause us to have very large babies, and the effect of the insulin on their system, while in the mother's womb, they get all the sugar and everything that they need. The baby is born, and if you don't realize this woman has gestational diabetes, the baby may still have insulin circulating that can make him get low blood sugar and can die, right? It is said that women who have had gestational diabetes are at greater risk for developing diabetes, type 2 diabetes or adult onset diabetes later on, and also that the babies who have been subjected to the mother, having gestational diabetes while pregnant can also develop diabetes. So you want to be able to watch these people throughout and make sure the nutrition state is good, that you keep check on them, like how the pancreatic function goes and all the rest of it. So those are the type. And like I was saying, we are seeing type 2, which is usually adult onset diabetes, earlier in our population, younger people, 26, 27, 30, 15. And that is not juvenile diabetes. That is adult onset diabetes. And it is actually attributed, it's actually caused by the way we eat.
Okay. So Akeem, I want to ask you a final question before we summarize and wrap. Now, in Grenada, one of the things we love to consume is the fried chicken with fries. Chicken and chips. Chicken and chips, as we call it, right? Now, we know it's not a good choice, all right? But earlier you spoke of combination which can help, slow down the sugar spike.
The glycemic load.
Yes, in your system. Let's talk about a combination for something like that. Just so the people who really like it, like Doc. I know Doc love a chicken. And Doc, you don't know.
I don't even like chicken. Oh my God!
Oh man,
Doc, that was a low blow. So yes, yes, Akeem. Give us a combination that can significantly lower the glycemic load for, let's say, a chicken and chips.
I'll mix it up a bit. So one of the things that we can do is, it means that with the food that primarily affects blood sugar levels, the potatoes, we can either decide to do fresh potatoes, or we can do sweet potatoes, and those sweet potato wedges are a thing now, and you can find them at all fancy restaurants. So that's an excellent option because the sweet potato has way more fiber. Okay, so that's one option for your starch. Fresh potatoes or sweet potato opposed to the processed fries that we get from the supermarket. There's that. 2, we can either do a regular fried chicken. That's fine. Or for those of us who prefer a more healthy alternative, air frying is also an option. If you don't have an air fryer, what I like to tell my clients is that if you're home with your family, you can get some chicken drumsticks, you get some thyme. You do a dry rub. Right, you do a dry rub and you coat it in a little bit of oil and you put them on a tray and you put them in the oven and you turn the oven up to the highest temperature, let's say for about 400. All right, and so you allow that chicken to cook at a high temperature and to crisp, but you got to dry rub and season it. And what you can top this off with a nice salad with some avocados, and here we have that combination we're talking about. So you have green vegetables, you have your starch that's a lower glycemic index starch. Right? Sweet potato would be a great option. You have your oven fried, or if you so desire. Right? Because I know my clients say, Mr. Williams, listen, we have fried chicken still, and some people you cannot tell them, but if you want to make a healthy alternative, these are something we can play with the starch, play with the protein, but it's always good to have a nice vegetable salad, or you can have some cooked vegetables if that floats your boat with it. And that's an excellent way that we can balance that meal there. Also, in addition to that, I should have mentioned this before, what we have also seen somewhat is that the way and the, how should I say this, the order in which we consume the food from vegetable to protein to starch versus starch tend to has some level of impact on the blood sugar levels. So here again is another option, and fullness as well. So it means that the stomach doesn't empty it as fast. So it stays for a little bit and you're not hungry as often. Because I know this is a concern. You might have a fried chicken and fries, and 2 2 you're hungry again. You're going to go for something else that you might grab that might be highly processed. So when we talk about control, we have to control the cravings and the things that we might that's going to cut your control off. If that makes sense, or your impulse to say, you know what, let's be a little temperate here. So that would be my combination.
All right. Okay. Wonderful indeed. Doc, we're getting close to wrap up time. So one thing, Doc, though, I know recently, and it's ongoing, the front of label packaging,
yes,
which is a big thing as it relates to keep helping people to, consume the healthy stuff and avoid the things that are not good for them. Where does that fall in the scheme of things as it relates to diabetes?
So it falls among a series of interventions, a series of actions that we can do, right? And I really want Grenada to listen to this, because sometimes it looks like people who are advocates for good health, like we're making noise, but again, we're using evidence. Front of package warning, and specifically that one that looks like a stop sign, the black one that looks like a stop sign that says high in fats, high in sugars, high in salt, are another method, another mechanism, right, by which you can guide people who buy, consumers, as to how to make good choices. So you went to the supermarket and you wanted to buy a snack, and I remember asking that when we launched the whole front of packet thing for the media. Godfrey, you go to the supermarket and you look at goddaughter, you look at 4-year-old goddaughter, say, Godfather, you can bring a snack for me? And you say, so sweetheart, and you go to the supermarket and you see, I don't want to call no name, the sweet biscuit with the cream in it says high in fats, high in sugar, high in salt, because it is indeed. Or you see the corn curls, not corn curls, the cheese curls. Sorry, corn curls, I don't mean to call your name. Right? Those cheese snacks. Or you see peanuts, but they have this black thing. If you saw a package that said high in sugar, high in fats, high in salt, would you buy it for your little 4-year-old goddaughter? Would you? I guess not. Right? I don't think you will. And so what it does is advise us to it detains us for a minute. It makes us discern, think about, is this a good thing for me to do? And then we say, all right, I'll probably have 2 of these biscuits. Or when I get to my goddaughter, she has 1 and she shares the rest with her brothers and sisters. Or I tell her mother she can have 2 because she will not put on and play, put the 2 in the fridge or in the biscuit box until later because you work with it. What it does is create a certain amount of awareness in the population. Say, here are some of the things that this has, you might like it. And since from World Trade, WTO, World Trade Organization, we can't really stop what is bought and brought into the country, we need to advise. We have a responsibility to advise our population as to what is here. The little writings in the back, that's half of them I can't read anyway. The fact that we can import foods that currently there's no law, there's no policy that says that there must be explanation as to what is contained in the foods. We get foods that have those explanations at the back because they're exported to other countries that already have those rules that you must put X, Y, and Z. So sometimes you see products on the shelf that are written with Arabic characters that you don't really understand, but we don't have any power over that. If Mr. Ahmed says this is cornmeal cuckoo, put some water and you're good, we buy it, okay? But we're not sure as to what is there because we don't read the characters. With front of package, it gives you a sense. I want to tell you this, I want to show the public. There's been the argument that, the people who look at things like who make sugar cake and stuff, that there wasn't any space. And I should have given God the secret of a sled. a local person who's very aware of the whole importance of this front of package. The labeling that when you go to the store, the front of the package or the packaging of these highly processed foods that you see that says X biscuit, Y chewing gum, Y sweetie, X chocolate, whatever it is, right? I saw a sweetie paper. You know what a sweetie paper? A sweetie paper measured 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches, 3 probably by 3. And it had 4 of those labels. This is Argentina. It was a mint sweetie, so we're not using no Mylar paper, okay? Mint sweetie with 4 labels. So however you turn the sweetie, 1 label is in your face, right? And it had 4. And while they couldn't write in high in fats, high in sugar, they have a code. I imagine number 2 for that country, Argentina, represents sugar. And everybody knows because there's a public education program, because Argentina moved that into law effective January 2023. Okay? That all foods that are sold to the population must indicate if they have above the required amount for nutritious consumption, it must indicate that it's high in whatever it is. And the sweetie, look at sweetie paper, have 4. So we don't really have any excuses, right, for not being able to implement a lot of the policy plans, whatever, right, that can help to ensure the well-being of our population. First of all, to prevent obesity, and second of all, to help us to avoid the conditions like diabetes, and third of all, to help us to control those conditions by being aware of what is contained and how they can, in fact. It means, therefore, that when we're going to manage diabetes in Grenada or in anywhere in the world, but I talk about Grenada tonight, we need to have the input of the Ministry of Trade and Finance, which come under one head. We need to have the input of the Ministry of Agriculture, who gives us options and supports us get an option. We have the Ministry of, you work with the Ministry, you come on the Ministry of Agriculture, but really do a lot of health planning. We need to have the Ministry of Health, planning and health education and health promotion and all the rest of it. We need to have the Ministry of Education taking part in this to ensure that our children get proper nutrition, or social development, which takes care of a very young and a very old. And we need to have the input of a whole lot. The legal affairs help us to get those laws passed quickly. It must be not something that's run individually. This is not something about health. This is about Grenadian people being well, living the maximum, enjoying life to the best, being able to be as productive as they can, and living their life to the expectations that they should have when they were born. What expectancy? How long are you going to live for on the day that you were born? Okay, that is what this is all about. Diabetes is one of the diseases, right? It's unfortunate that we're going the way we're going. We probably have 13% of our population who has diabetes by now. That is 13 people out of every 100 people we meet most likely have diabetes. Some of them don't know. Okay? Because they haven't gone and checked. It is the responsibility of many, including the individuals, but of many of our institutions to ensure, right, that even our people who do gastronomy, they must so people who provide food, they must understand how do we give portions to ensure that our people are well. It's going to be a big collective effort for all of us to be healthy as we can.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's all the time we have, folks. So, Akeem, I would give you, a minute just to make any closing remarks, any final words you want to leave with our listeners and viewers.
I want to extend a sincere thanks to the Doctor on Call team as well as the Grenada Diabetes Association for affording me the opportunity to come and to share today. I also want to join with Dr. Nixon in making a clarion call for the All of Society approach. I remember when I was young, the old people had a saying, and I like to go back to the saying because as an adult it makes sense now. You know, the bulb comes on. There's a saying that they were saying if you would pass someone this, you should greet them because you never know you will need them. And I think we have lost of the meaning or the sense of what it meant for our community to raise a child, but it takes all of community approach for us to live at the quality of life that we want. I'm saying this to say that we need all of the various arms of the country to come on board to support this, because this is not a food and nutrition thing, like Dr. Sonia Nixon mentioned. It is not a Ministry of Health thing, because if it affects one, it affects everybody else, and there's always a financial burden and cost available to it. I say to people all the time, what matters the most, we all have to die someday, but the quality of life that we must live, not for ourselves, but for our families who we sometimes have to care for, that requires time out of us. If we would put a conscious effort into making healthier, we can see a better, a healthier, a wealthier, and a more productive Grenada. I think the government of the revolution got it right when they brought nutrition into the play, in terms of productivity, and I really want to encourage Grenadians. Nutrition is an important part of your life, and so it's something to consider, that wherever you are, no matter what stage you are, from cradle to senior, nutrition is important, and I want to encourage persons to really put a best foot forward and take the nutrition seriously.
Thank you very much indeed, Akeem. Doc, 30 seconds.
So an awareness period is always a time to give us a chance to renew, to fix whatever challenges we've had. This is a good time, if you haven't been, walk into a clinic, tell your doctor, whoever it is, that you'd like to check yourself for diabetes. My auntie, my mother, I don't know anybody who have sugar, but I just want to check. Okay? Get information. There is information, we all know. I'm always thirsty, I'm always hungry, I'm losing weight, whatever it is. Get checked. Let us avoid, above all, the complications. Losing your vision, having heart attacks, having strokes, kidney failing, and losing your limbs. Those are the big five. There are lots of other things that can happen, but those are the ones that not only cost you, but it costs the health sector as well, and your families, the loss that they have. So this is a good time. I'm going to encourage people. It's a simple finger prick, right, to figure out what may be going on. And of course, there are other tests we can do. Your time. This is also a good time to start changing the way we eat. This is a good time to start planting okra and, what is it again?
Spinach.
Right, and spinach, and even the Jamaican bag, the Trinidadian badgies, things that and spinach that grows fast that you wonder where is it growing, and it's cheap, it tastes good, it's nice with egg, it tastes nice on its own, right? This is a good time. This is a good time for churches and families and other organizations to get together and talk about this. This is a good time to read. When you're looking at TikTok, there's a lot of good information in my favorite instrument, your telephone.
Yes.
Okay, it's all in here. Ask a question. This is a good time to take back your life and to make sure that diabetes becomes a thing of the past, something that we can control, especially that we can prevent in our young population, and we can live our best lives.
Thank you very much, Doc. Akeem, thank you so very much for accepting the invitation. We really enjoyed having you here, and of course, keep in mind that it's your first, but it definitely will not be your last. We know how to find you, and we will find you. So prepare yourself. Yes, you will be back. Definitely. Thanks again. For all the information, Doc. As always, thanks. It's such a pleasure having you and being here with me every Tuesday evening. To share information with our listeners and viewers about their health, which is so important. Remember, folks, a wealthy nation is a healthy nation. So until next Tuesday. And we hope to have Dr. Matthias with us. He's been here before, but of course, an expert in the field of diabetes, and hopefully should be sharing more information with us. So thank you once again. Don't forget, tomorrow evening, episode 9 of Our Climate Reality, we're looking at renewable energy. That's the way the world is going now, so be sure to join us at 8:30 for that. So until then, thank you very much. Do have a good night. All the best.